You are listening to AHRAZPod, a podcast by the Association of the Human Rights for the Azerbaijani People in Iran. I am Sina.
And I am Behzad.
We will be with you with the recent human rights violation reports for Azerbaijani people in Iran with our short informative podcasts. To get updates on human rights violations in Iran, please follow AHRAZ's social media accounts. You are listening to AHRAZPod. Hi everyone, you are listening to the second episode of AHRAZPod. Today we are going to present you the latest updates about the human rights violations and human rights issues in Islamic Republic of Iran with Behzad. Hi Behzad.
Hi Sina, thanks for having me.
You are welcome, Behzad. And today, actually, we are going to talk about many important issues. One of them is the recent General Assembly of United Nations Third Committee, the 76th session, which happened on October 25th, 2021. Behzad, do you have any informations, reports, and comments on the special reporter's Javid Rehman's comments?
Yeah, actually, Sina, I read the report. Mr. Rehman gave us a great comprehensive report on human rights violations in Iran. So Mr. Rehman raised issues and concerns regarding death penalties and number of detentions in Iran. He gave updates on minority rights violations and issues and concerns regarding COVID-19 pandemic. So he emphasized that death penalties in Iran is in an alarming rate. It is also can be considered as arbitrary deprivation of lives because, Sina, they just label whoever, they don't like their activities. They just label them. For example, they label political prisoners or civil rights activists as a spy for a third country, such as US and Israel. And these activists and these victims, they have no tool to disprove this label or disprove this accusation. And based on these false accusations, they just arbitrarily, execute them. This is a huge concern right now in Iran, and Mr. Rahman emphasized that also. There are also a lot of minority rights issues in Iran. As you know, like more than 70% of Iran's population are not Persian, and they are deprived of their very, very basic rights, including their right to get education in their own language. He also talked about sanctions. Iran has been using sanctions as a shield to justify its violations of human rights, and they kept using these sanctions as excuse, telling that these human rights issues exist only because of the sanction. But Mr. Rahman replied that Iran should stop using sanction as an excuse to escape the human rights responsibilities. And Iran should be responsible for the violations.
So Behzad, I don't know if you have realized or not, there are two exceptional things happened in this assembly. The first one was the special reporter Javid Rehman's tone. Do you have any ideas on the tone of his speech and the manner that he reported this time?
Yes, actually, his tone was stronger than usual. It was different from previous times, and he also mentioned that international committees they should take necessary actions to secure the human rights in Iran because the channels inside Iran that the government blocks all of them, and there is no channel to kind of urge the government to respect the human rights. Now it's, since activists and these channels are blocked from inside the country, international committees, they should take the action. And he also, asked international committees to take necessary steps.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That was actually an important point, an exceptional point, which Mr. Rahman mentioned the importance of the international community to take action and to intervene because Iran is kind of failing to meet its responsibilities for human rights. And also, as you know, special reporter should be able to enter Iran and have visits, have reports and observations, but Iran is avoiding to give this right to the special reporter, and this is another factor which is very important in the reports and the transparency of the human rights issues in Iran. Another issue which was not exceptional and which was an ordinary issue always happening in these assemblies and sessions was Iran's representatives' aggressive attitude towards the other countries. I actually felt like, Iran's representatives are kind of evading the responsibilities by using fallacies and by accusing other countries which were not the topic of the session.
Exactly, Sina. It's like absurd. They're like accusing other governments like Israel, US, and justifying their violations, their human rights violations. So this is like for me it's not acceptable, and you can really see like that the Iran representative was super aggressive and they were angry about this report.
You're totally right. They were kind of trying to justify with the facts which were not related to the topic, and actually it was very distracting on my side listening to a topic which was not concrete. It was always, they were trying to use fallacies to connect other issues to the human rights violations in Iran, and it was kind of distracting. So, Besat, do you have any other updates?
Yes, we have updates on several cases in Azerbaijani region of Iran. We mentioned these cases like in our previous episode. We have updates on 12 cases of Azerbaijani activists who were protesting Iran's aid to Armenia last year during Azerbaijan war. So they were protesting Iranian government to stop their aid to Armenia. And after more than a year, they attended the hearing court and they got charged by in total of 15 years of prison and 888 lashes by the revolutionary court. And actually, Sina, this is against Iran's constitutional law because according to the constitution, Iranian people, they have right for peaceful assembly and peaceful protests as long as they are not carrying any weapon and their protest is peaceful. No one, even the government, has no right to stop them. So they were having peaceful protests and they got charged for 15 years of prison and 888 lashes based on this violation of constitutional law.
Having a 15 years of prison and 888 lashes, which is, I can consider it as a torture. I mean, it is completely unacceptable. And considering the fact that these protests were actually aimed to reduce the tension in the region and ask Iran to not indirectly send arms to Armenia, it's a peaceful protest, no arms were used, and these protesters were sentenced to 15 years of prison, 888 lashes. And it's an unbelievable kind of action that is being taken by the Iranian government.
We also have other updates during last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Iran has increased arbitrary detentions and summons to Iranian intelligence offices in different Azerbaijani cities. They summoned more than 6 activists to the security offices. They interrogated them, threatened them to stop their activities, and they made a case against them, and I hope they don't receive any charges later. But so far, we had the Iranian security and intelligence officers summoned Farisa Jedi, the Shahruz Berzajar, Abulfaz Karamati, Yusuf Salahshur, Mohammad Mardi, and Wahid Abhari. They are Azerbaijani activists. They are demanding the basic civil rights for Azerbaijani people in Iran.
And an important issue over here is that all of these summons and calls were made on phone either or as verbally directed to the accused. But according to the Code of Criminal Procedure of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Article 167 and Article 168, the state party who is accusing the accused should present 2 copies of written document of the summon to the both parties, right? But
yes,
it is not presented to anyone, and Islamic Republic of Iran is trying to evade the responsibility of answering to these written documents later on. That's my assumption.
Exactly. So this is also against the Iranian Code of Criminal Law, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to give written documents summoning them to the court. Actually, intelligence office, they have no right to. The only authority can summon people is court, the judicial system, right? That's why they are trying to avoid giving written document.
You are right. So I hope that the previous General Assembly of United Nations Third Committee on 25th October and the calls of Mr. Rehman for the international community to take action, to take responsibility on the responsibilities that are being avoided and evaded by Iranian government would help in the future, in the upcoming weeks, the Iranian community, Iranian population and activists defend their own human rights and have their basic fundamental rights. Thank you very much. And we will actually continue sharing this podcast on the human rights issues of Iran. Please don't hesitate to share your comments, ideas below the post that we are going to share this podcast on social media. And we believe that without respect for human rights and freedom of nations, peace cannot be achieved. Thanks for listening to us.